We are Australian and we are one. And we are now under the control of a government and a corporate entity that is depriving us of our freedom. They have poked the tiger too hard. Many of us rolled along, paid our taxes, did what was asked of us, but I really smelled a rat when I said no to the vaccine about 2 days before I was going to get it. And ever since then, everything I've seen proves to me that we are living in a fascist state. The definition of fascism in the Oxford Dictionary is when government and corporations combine together for the common good. When you've got a government and a bunch of corporate leaders telling you to vote yes, that should be an automatic indication to vote no. And what on earth are we doing trying to enshrine racism into a Commonwealth of Australia constitution that the politicians who are trying to do that don't look at anyway? We've already got a voice. The Indigenous people have already got a voice. But where was our constitution when we were being locked out of our states? Where was our constitution when medical conscription was forcing people to give up everything they own? Where was our constitution when the homeless people that are growing so rapidly in this country is being pushed on them because of mandates? Where is our constitution when they can bring down emergency powers and circumvent the highest law in the land? Where is our Commonwealth of Australia constitution? And why do you want to amend a document that you don't care about anyway? They want to enshrine racism into our constitution. If you want to enshrine anything else into our constitution, we desperately need a Bill of Rights. We desperately need a Bill of Rights. I would rather we had a referendum on whether we would want our government to sign up to the international health regulation to give Tedros the power to be our governor in the next pandemic. Would you want that to happen? Has anyone asked you if you want that to happen? You're very good at saying no. Do you trust the government? Do you trust the corporations? Do you trust education? Do you trust health? Do you trust legacy mainstream media? How are you going to vote in 4 weeks' time? How are you going to vote? I've been, like many of you, labelled as a racist. I ain't no racist. I am sick to death of people like Morrison and Albanese strutting our human rights on the world stage like we're a banner that's to be held up in the light. As a nation, we need to measure ourselves by our most disenfranchised. At the moment, every year out of Canberra rolls a money train with a big hole in the bottom of it. $30 to $40 billion is loaded on that train and aimed at the Aboriginal remote communities. By the time the train gets to them, there's not a teaspoon of money left in it. We don't need a voice to sort that out. We need accountability in government to sort that out. I said to Uncle Bruce Shillingsworth on a Club Grubbery interview the other night, the way I see it is, you're my brother. And he said, the way I see it is, you're my brother. And I said to him, the way I see it is, in Australia, we are made up of people who believe in this. If you stand, I stand. If you fall, I fall. I stand with our Indigenous people, but I want them to get a fair deal. I don't want to see the fat cats in the black corporations raking in the money and are not getting to where it needs to go, because corruption infiltrates everybody, no matter what the colour of their skin, if they don't have integrity. Without integrity, we're nothing. Now, I may be really dumb. In fact, a lot of people think I am.
Oh, no,
what you think of me is none of my business. I couldn't care less. But this much I'm really struggling with. Anyone who's thinking that not voting is a good idea, I see as giving a yes vote to the campaign. For goodness sake, we still have some form of democracy. And whether you believe in the electoral system or not, to deny a vote is to give away any opportunity to make change, because we've got to work in the system that we have at the moment. That's the way I see it. But the big thing that will get us across the line in this nation is a power that's going to divide us, not unite us. We have been divided by experts, from without and from within. We are being divided into a country that is focused on all the wrong things, when all that really matters is that we pull together. We must be united. We must be united. I have learned a lot. I've learned that the country is made up of black fellas, white fellas, old fellas and young fellas. And in the last few weeks, I've been talking to a lot of my Indigenous old fellas with grey hair. And the old fellas all sitting around agree on one thing. We are all Australian. If we could have leadership in our nation like Jacinta Price and Warren Mundine, we would have real leadership towards restoring the once great country we once were. People say, hang the politicians. Sometimes that's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because some of them are actually proving themselves to be worthwhile. I would love to see a country led by Jacinta Price or Alex Antic, for example, people who are prepared to stand up. So I urge us all to work with what we've got. And before I close, I want to say this. Grace and evil cannot live in the same town, and evil is always the first to leave. And I want to illustrate that with a very quick story. My wife, who is part Noongar, was adopted as an Aboriginal baby into a loving Christian family. And as a future was laid out in front of her of a life with promise, living on a farm, being well educated by a beautiful family, something was going on behind the scenes that nobody knew about. From the age of 3, she was being groomed by a predator within the church that her family attended. That predator groomed her till the age of 9, when he started raping her, and he did that every weekend for 6 years. She kept it quiet because she thought if she spoke up she would cause too much trouble, that she'd be sent back to the orphanage from where she came. And when she spoke up in her 40s and laid charges, something really great happened. She felt some freedom happening for the first time. And even though he was acquitted because he was too old and the DPP had no money, and there were 64 charges against him that would have taken him to jail, she found it in her heart years later to forgive the man. And what she did was she got in on an aeroplane with me, and we flew across from the east coast over here to the west, and we found the man in one of the regional centres in a nursing home. And we went up to him, and he was sitting on a park bench out the front of the nursing home like he had a spotlight on him. And we walked up, and we couldn't believe we had our good fortune that we saw him. And she sat next to him. And I said, "Are you so-and-so?" And he said, "Yes, I am." I said, you know who this is?" And he said, "No." I said, "This is Shelley." And he trembled, and he shook a hand, and he cried a little. He puddled up. And he said, "It's really good to see you, Shelley." And she said, "It's really good to see you." And that floored me. And then she said to him, "I've come all the way from the East Coast to tell you that I forgive you for what you did." And his reply as he puddled up was, "Oh, that's good. I want you to know I forgive you too, because you were just as responsible as I was." And as I grabbed his shoulder and went to punch him in the face, she put a hand in front of mine and she said, "No, not now." And then she looked up at the sky and she said, "God, give me strength." And she looked him straight back in the eye and said, "Despite everything you just said, I still forgive you." And then she leaned over and kissed him on the forehead and got up and walked away. I've never seen a more courageous act in my life. But something happened. It was like I saw a dark force leave that man as he collapsed into a wreck. He collapsed into a moral wreck. And the dark force that left him was saying things like, "Man, you're on your own with this. I can't deal with this." And when I looked at him, I realised that he'd lost his power over her and she got it back. And I came up with a saying that grace and evil can't live in the same town, and evil's always the first to leave. If we don't start forgiving each other in this country, we're not worth living here. If we don't start forgiving ourselves for the crimes of the past, we're never going to go forward. The only way we're going to get freedom back is to forgive and live in grace, but still hold the people to account who need to be held to account. And they will be. They will be. If not in this court, in the one above. So take great heart in what you're doing. I want you to know this before you go. There's not one person on the planet who's more important than any one of you, whether you vote yes or no, whether you've been vaccinated or not. There's not one person on the planet who isn't broken. But you're all precious and you're all beautiful. And I don't do this for money and I don't do this for ego. I do this because I love my country, and that means I love you even though I may not like you. So let's get over it, let's get on with it, and let's get our country back. God bless Australia and God bless you.